Michael Jackson made many decisions throughout his career. Now, some would argue that some of these decisions were good, some of them were not so good. And look at this crazy piece of hair. But guess what? We're going to talk about at least three decisions today that he made that some of you might need to make also. And I'm excited to get into this. Shall we? My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. I'm a fractional CMO, CGO, and I recently learned that I actually deal very heavily in something called go to market. Don't you love emergent terms? Anyway, I'm going to keep this party going with Michael Jackson, not because I'm a ride or unalive type of fan and have been since I guess maybe the 70s or the 80s, but because there's so many lessons that we can take from his life. And of course, now with the biopic, the top grossing biopic ever, Michael being in the movie theater now, we have a chance to relive some of those high points and a couple of the low points, although I think there's going to be a sequel. Don't hold me on that. I think there's going to be a sequel though. And as somebody that builds brand, right? I love this breaking the brand thing that I do. And I love brand, I love brand equity, and I love leadership because what most people don't understand is that leadership, operations, and communications are the basis of brand development. When people start to put things into separate boxes, immediately they start to set themselves up for failure. Because if your leadership is in yourself, or your leadership is in those that you brought into your organization, is shady, inconsistent, toxic, hyper toxic, dysfunctional, that is going to affect how the people within your organization actually evangelize the brand. Now, that's a whole different level of conversation, and that is not what we're talking about today, is it? Okay, kind of. But, as I began to relive some of the scenes in Michael and some of the things that I actually lived through, uh, for those of you who don't know, I actually saw the Motown 25 performance and I actually have Thriller on wax. And if you don't know what on wax is, yeah, click off now. But anyway, like I said, Michael Jackson made many decisions throughout his career, and arguably some of them were great, some of them were not so great. And if you ask me, many of them led to his ultimate demise. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to highlight three decisions that I believe Michael Jackson made that you may need to make or need to make again in order to get where you need to go. Y'all ready? Let's get into it. One of the first decisions that you see Michael make in the movie, and if you rolled around in certain entertainment circles, you see very clearly that there was an interesting relationship between him and Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown. Now, it is no secret that Joe Jackson's gentle parenting has been discussed in many circles. I hope you caught that. But ultimately, what I feel Michael made a decision to do is very heavily tied to his relationship with Berry Gordy, and was also I feel like very heavily tied to his relationship with Motown overall until they got to the point where there wasn't quite a relationship. Nevertheless, Joe Jackson Joe Jackson's gentle parenting has been discussed a lot. And what we know, or what we have been told, is that, it wasn't all, rainbow and rose over at the Jackson house. What is it, 2300 Jackson Street in Gary, Indiana? It wasn't big fun. And though the details vary, right? There's been stories of this and stories of that and stories of this and stories of that. One of the things that I think we can all agree upon is that there was some sort of emotional neglect, either perceived or real, but their emotional neglect was present because, most children don't call their parents by their first name. And, honestly, as I was sitting there watching the movie, it made me really think something that we don't talk about and that we don't dig into is Joe Jackson's past. And how did he become this person? And what is that about? And if you have any ideas or thoughts or any understanding, please drop that in the comments, because from my coaching background, I could speculate a lot of things. And so nevertheless, you're raising these children, these very talented children. They would go on to be superstars. You're raising them, you're trying to keep them safe, you're trying to give them something to do so that they don't succumb to the temptations in their environment. But that came with a fair amount of emotional neglect. And you can feel free to argue if you like, but Children want certain things. And when they don't get them, when they don't get hugged, when they don't get patted on the back, when they don't get told that they did something well, that creates a bit of neglect. And I think that is what sets up Michael's search for emotional support, which he gets from Berry Gordy. Now in the movie, there's a scene where he's sitting there at the board and he's asking questions. And from what we've seen and what's been depicted in the Jackson household, you didn't ask questions. That was bad. Don't ask questions. Just do what you're told. Get the belt. Yeah, I mean, if we're honest, many of us grew up like that. You weren't allowed to question adults. What are you talking about? Only now do we understand that that may not be the best way to rock, but we won't get on that. We won't talk about parenting today. We're not going to do that. We will talk about the ability to ask questions and to have those questions answered in a safe space. Berry Gordy not only answered his questions, right? He did it in a cheerful way. He didn't say, if you don't stop asking me questions, I'm going to go get this belt. There was none of that. And so he gave him a safe space to be inquisitive, to be curious. And I don't know how many of you know, but there's something very necessary for us, even as adults, to be able to ask questions, to be able to learn, to be able to explore in safe space without judgment, without punishment, without consequences. And for many of you who are founders and leaders in your respective organizations, this is not something that you are doing because possibly in your past somewhere there were consequences and repercussions that you received from asking questions, from not knowing all the answers. Oftentimes, when I'm teaching and coaching founders, I will find that they were the person in the family who had to get everything right. And because they were the person in the family who had to get everything right, maybe they were the oldest or the oldest of six or the oldest of eight, usually it's a larger number. They don't know how to make mistakes because mistakes resulted in punishment. Mistakes resulted in problems. And so over time, many of those individuals, myself included, feel that the only way for us to be valued and comforted is to be right. And I don't know if you know this, but everybody can't be right all the time. So invariably, when you are wrong, that activates you in a different way. Now here come the thoughts of failure, et cetera, et cetera. And so Michael, who was 10 at the time, even though he was told to say he was 8, probably didn't know, but his inner child may have known, or the energy that made, sorry, I'm being poked by a doggy nose, but the energy that made him knew that he needed that. Because of that safe space, because of the opportunity to explore and to be curious, I think it not only made him feel valued as a human, but it made him better for what was to come. And so, this is why this is important, is that not only that you have safe spaces and emotional support as a founder and a leader, because you need to get better. And if you cannot make mistakes, if you cannot be corrected, then how will you grow? That means that you will operate in an echo chamber and everything will be, oh my God, it's awesome and amazing. Everything is not awesome. Everything is not amazing. And what was awesome and amazing in 2020 may not be awesome and amazing in 2026, but you don't have a safe space where you can ask questions, where you can explore, where you can say, hey, I don't know. And you've got to get that. Be like Mike. Get that emotional support. Get in that community. Get with those people. Get in that group. So this would be a perfect place for me to tell you about Founder Mind. Oh, look, I already did, but I don't want to harp on that. If you want to know more, put Founder in the comments. But you need that. You absolutely need that. And I think seeing him do that at a young age, and I do think, side note, I think Barry got his kicks off of upsetting Joe. I really think he did. I really believe he did. But watching him do that and have the space to do that, it looks like a little thing, but it's so big. huge. It's a huge thing, right? One of my really good friends say that I use the word safe space a lot. I'm like, I probably do. It's interesting. Even in our agreements, I require mutual safe space with our clients because they're going to share their story and I'm going to share my story. And in no uncertain terms, should those things be weaponized against each other? I know I'm not going to be weaponizing their story against them. And I know you better not weaponize anything I tell you against me. Mutual safe space. It's a whole thing. Get into it. Rewrite your agreements. I'm fine with it. Go ahead. If that inspired you, go ahead. One of the next things, and again, he made numerous decisions, but these are just the three that stand out to me, right? You know, I actually watched his Motown 25 performance live, but I wouldn't know until the stories began to come out how he had to fight for that performance. How ultimately it was going to be a Jackson's thing and it ended up being a Michael thing. And from what I understand and what I remember, um, if he had not been given that spot and that space to perform, he actually may not have performed with his brothers. Well, what does that mean to you? I'm glad you asked. Michael was selfish. Yeah, he was selfish. That thing that you're trying not to be because people say, oh, you're so selfish. He was selfish. And as an advocate for selfishness, let me tell you what that means so that you can be clear. Selfishness simply means that you're putting what you want, need, desire, and deserve first. 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 And why is that important? It's important because if you're never first, you're last. Sorry, a little Ricky Bobby just creeped in and I just had to let it out, right? But if you don't understand and if you're unwilling to put yourself first, huh, nobody else will. Nobody else will. They may say it, but their humanity is going to cause them to put themselves first. So if you're not actively advocating for what you need, if you're not actively selfish, not self-centered, where you think the sun rises and sets on your gluteus maximus, but selfish, where you say, I need this, or I want this, I need these conditions, I need this situation, I need this to go a particular way, I need this for me, and be unyielding in that reality. Until you're willing to do that, I can almost bet that you find yourself resenting people in your life. You don't have to tell me. I already know. Some of you resent your spouse. They don't pay any attention to what you want. You know why? Because they're reflecting the energy you're giving to yourself. Look, I'm about to relationship coach again. I am, just for a second. I have worked with many couples over the years as a relationship coach when my relationship coaching practice was the thing. And I remember two couples in particular that turned their marriages around in a span of a week. Now, the only way you do this is if you're married to a moderately mentally healthy individual. So don't get geeked if you're dealing with a sociopath or a psychopath. And if you are. If you don't, meet me in my DMs or send me a message because we need to figure this out. But what the individuals did was they stopped putting all their energy into the spouse and the marriage. The one thing one of my clients wanted to do, I remember this very vividly, she wanted to go for a walk in the evening, but she wouldn't because everybody needed her. And I said, what would it take for you to go for a walk? I just need to take care of things earlier and then I can go for a walk. Great. When she started going for a walk, that bat signal, energy, whatever you want to call it, flipped her marriage in the best way because she was prioritizing herself. He started to prioritize herself. Her, not herself. He started to prioritize what she needed. She prioritized what she needed. He prioritized what she needed. See how that works? Now, I'm sure somebody's going to come on here and say, oh my God, that's not that easy. Well, it actually is. If you are dealing with a moderately mentally healthy spouse, if you're dealing with somebody knee deep in sociopathy or psychopathy, that's not going to work. Those are the people that are going to be like, why are you going for a walk? Oh, you're trying to lose weight? Oh, you might as well come back in the house. When they start to dig at you for you trying to better yourself, you know you're dealing with a fool. Run. Can't run? Call somebody, talk it out, start to get your resources together. Conflict resolution is 90% of the success of a relationship. All right, back to business. Motown 25. So Michael Jackson performs live Motown 25. And when we say performs live, please understand that that is the 80s. And there is no stops. There is no fast forward unless you're recording it on your VHS. There's none of that, right? And so he performs and he introduces the world to the moonwalk. Now, he is not the originator or the creator of the moonwalk. He is the person that made the moonwalk famous. And in doing so, he begins to solidify his presence, his power, and his identity in the world of music, apart from being a member of the Jackson Five, which later became the Jacksons. Some of you need that. Some of you need to separate yourself from your previous identities. Or personal or both, whatever. Separating yourself from your previous identities. How you used to be, what you used to do, who you were aligned with, who you collaborated with, the things that you did. Sometimes that's the thing that is missing. Sorry, not sorry. Sometimes that's the thing that's missing. And because it's so easy to white knuckle our previous decisions, sometimes that's what we do. We like, now my knuckles can't exactly go white. They can go like a lighter brown, but this is white knuckling, right? Where you're squeezing and holding on. You're holding on so tightly. You're holding on so tightly that the thought of letting go scares you to death. And I'm here to tell you, if you were looking for a sign, like, send me a sign. What do I need to do? You need to let go. You need to release yourself from some of those previous identities. You need to release yourself from those previous ways of being and who you were aligned with. Maybe you need a new name. I know somebody who renamed themselves in this season. And they said, you know what? It just felt right. Go for it. Go for it. Please stop fearing being selfish. Being selfish could be the thing that shifts the entire trajectory of the work you do in the world, as well as your income and your impact. I'm just saying. Hey, I know. There we go. I didn't pay any bills today. Let's pay a few little bills today. Well, hopefully we can pay some bills today. If I get in the right folder, we can pay some bills today. Hey, today's live stream is brought to you by the COE, and I'm actually teaching not that class on May 21st. It's called Are You Silently Sabotaging Your Business? Check it out at luma.com/the COE. One day I'm going to update, guys. And of course, as I always tell you, if you love my glasses, I'm a Zenny girl. Check out buymyzennies.com. Yeah, baby. Because people always ask, oh my God, I love your glasses. I love your glasses. Great. Buymyzennies.com. All right. So lastly, one of the things that Michael did that you may also need to do, 3 key decisions that Michael Jackson made in the midst of all the decisions that he would make over the course of his life. Some good, some bad, as we said before. Firing Joseph. Firing his father as his business manager. And I don't think that it was vengeful. I think that going back to our initial point about the emotional support and having the safe space to be inquisitive, to explore, to discover. I think innately Michael knew that he would need that. Something in him said, and sometimes what's within us understands before what's without us can comprehend. And I think he knew he would need that. He knew he needed to be in safe space, and not just safe space from a belt, but safe space to create the way he needed to create what he wanted to create, to sing what he wanted to sing, to be who he wanted to be. And we see a similar coming of age and awakening happening with Janet later on. Hence, we get the Control album. Hey, Control. Ooh, ooh. So we get the Control album out of that. And so there's something super meaningful in his decision to say, I need to be in a space where I can be fully me. I can build what I want to build. I don't have to build it with my brothers, and I don't think that that's shade. I don't think that that's shame, right? I think for all intents and purposes, the Jackson siblings love each other deeply, right? But there was something Michael knew he had to be apart from them, and he couldn't be that because Joe had demonstrated to him that at every turn, given the opportunity, Joe was going to make you take one for the team. Take one for the team, Michael, getting this Pepsi commercial. Take one for the team, Michael, come do this victory tour. And these aren't small asks, right? These aren't, hey, Michael, let's do a photo shoot in the living room. These are basically, hey, Mike, put your life on hold. We know you're super duper famous, and you know what? You've got brand equity and recognition in your own right, but come on over here and be in the Jacksons right now. Michael knew there was something that he needed to be that could not include being a member of the Jackson Five or a member of the Jacksons or being controlled by Joseph. Much like you know that there's somebody that you need to be that doesn't exist within certain confines, that doesn't exist within certain constructs, that doesn't exist within certain context. And you know it. You know it, you know it, you know it. Because right now in May of 2026, you're existing in the tension of who you are and who you're becoming, or who you are and who you know you're supposed to be. You're not confused, you're just conflicted. Because this is the part of the trip that everybody can't go on. And you're used to driving like a Mercedes Sprinter van. And in this part of the journey, yeah, it's going to be a Corvette, babe. Yeah. Heck, it might even be a smart car. Have y'all ever seen a smart car? The thing is like a Hot Wheel. It's like this big. I don't even know. Yeah. One person in there is like, ooh. But you understand what I'm saying. You're used to driving this Sprinter van, right? With everybody getting a seat and, oh, yeah, you can drive them all around and do what they need and help them with their errands. Smart car season, babe. It's smart car season for you, which means some people may have to get fired. Now, you may not have to notify them and send them a formal note. You may not even have to send them a text message. They may just need to get fired from the position they have in your life. They may need to be fired from the role that they're currently playing or from the influence that they have over you. Some founder, some entrepreneur, some small business owner, some leader is watching this and they know. They know they've allowed too many people to run roughshod over their life. They know that they have catered to the expectations of other people to the point of their own demise. And something that I say often, and I'll say it right now just for you, people pleasers cannot be leaders. They can be in charge. and they'll be weak and they'll bring your organization to its knees eventually. But people pleasers cannot be leaders because they're addicted to external validation. That means that their ability to discern and to take in additional data that doesn't give them an attaboy is hard. It's challenging for them. So yeah, people pleasers can be in charge. Absolutely. Give them a title, give them a desk, whatever. They can't be leaders because discernment is a muscle that must be flexed and strengthened. And the only way you do that is to use it and grow it. Gotta lift some discernment weights. And you won't do that addicted to external validation. There's some more videos on this channel about that if you want to check it out. I often say I'm one of the foremost unlicensed authorities on people pleasing. I'm not a fake doctor. I don't have a doctoral degree or anything like that. But I've studied the origins. I understand where it comes from, the difference between people pleasing and codependency, blah, 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 blah. And like I said, for Michael to be the Michael that he knew he needed to be, Joseph couldn't go. Jackson's couldn't go. I'm not cutting you out of my life, but I'm cutting you out of this part because this is the path I have to walk. And for many of you, this is the path you have to walk. And some of those people that have been riding around in your proverbial Sprinter van, they're not going to understand why you downsized to a smart car because they can't get in. And I'm like, that's the point. You can't fit in here. It's got to be you and your smart car. Hey, you and your smart car. Hey, that's it. That's all. That's it. Until you are given maybe an SUV. But the reason why you'll be given that SUV is because you have fully demonstrated in your smart car that you are willing to discern and decide what is right for you and to take those steps accordingly. It's a whole thing, y'all. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? And look how we benefited from that. King of Pop. Look how we benefited from that. And we need to benefit from you. We need you to build that positive brand equity. We need you to show up. We need you to do the things and say the things, discern the things, not do some of the things. I'm just saying. But anywho, I think that's enough for today. If you really enjoyed this and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. Because I deal in positive brand equity, probably at some point you'll see a link where you can play brand equity bingo and see where you are. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Did any of the squares trip you up? Like I like to say, play brand equity bingo, and I hope you actually lose and win at the same time. But nevertheless, my name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. Feel free to find me on all your socials as, you guessed it, Stephanie D. McKenzie. And until next time, have a great week. Bye.
Have you been on a weight loss journey and the scale just isn't giving you the results you hoped for? Well, meet Thinner, an FDA-registered, all-natural, homeopathic approach that addresses the root causes of how to lose weight and keep it off, especially if hormones are an issue. If you're tired of all of the guesswork and doing it alone, scan the QR code for more info, and let's get you started today.